Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Tower of God New World. In today's video, we are going to talk about the updated tier list and pretty much go over, some characters I changed in this tier list. Now, before I go to any details, of course, we're going to add Lilial to the updated tier list. She's right over here. I didn't include SR or, rare characters. I didn't include them, only SSR and SR plus units. But Lilial, she is right here. I'm going to discuss the characters that I changed first, and then we're going to put Lilial in her own respective tier. Now, before I go into any details for the changed, the new placements for the units in the tier list as of to right now, this tier list, let me say this one more time. This tier list is based off of my opinion, okay? Let me say it one more time. This tier list is based off of my opinion. So if you disagree with something, don't take it personal, okay? Because everything I'm saying is not 100% factual. This is just based off of my opinion. And to be honest, man, some of these characters, I don't even use them. So it's like, let's say this character, for example, I don't even use this guy. So if you feel like this guy is good, I feel like he's B tier. But if you feel like this guy is good, I don't use him. So if you feel like he's A tier, maybe you're right. That's why I'm saying this tier list is based off of my opinion. Relax. You don't have to cry to your mom and dad and tell them, Faros put Kun Machine S tier. How am I going to pay the bills? Relax. Chill. So let's go in and talk about the characters. So the first character I want to talk about in this tier list is Bomb. So you guys might be wondering, damn, why is Bomb in S tier? And the reason why is because Bomb, he's an amazing support unit, but the more I use him, I realize that number one, very, very squishy. And of course, he is a support character, so support characters tend to be squishy, but Bomb is mostly used for the fact that he can, decrease the enemy's energy, he can increase your allies' energy, he can increase your allies' attack and defense. So he's pretty much useful for, those top three things, buffing your allies and pretty much decreasing enemies' energy. And I feel like compared to Hayura just brings so much more to the table. Garam and Anak as well. Like the energy restoration coming from Anak is absolutely insane, especially for her revolution of phase 2. It is just crazy. So I feel like Bomb, really great support unit. That's why I still put him in S tier. Just to let you guys know, S tier doesn't mean, the character is terrible. No, S tier means that the character is still good. It's just that they're not on the level of some of these units right here. For example, Hayura, uh, Princess Anak, Garam, and etc. So that's the reason why I put Bomb in S tier in my opinion, is because his survivability, like for me, he would die like in 5 or 6 seconds when I use him. And when I'm using Bomb, I would mostly use him in a boss team. Like if we're fighting against White Still Ill, I would use Bomb, or an Underground Laboratory. I would mostly use Bomb for bosses, and I would mostly use him for Light Element to pair him up with a Yi Ring. But other than that, I wouldn't put him in a purple team. I wouldn't put him in a green element team, and I wouldn't put him in a red element team because, Anak and Garam. So, that's the main reason why I put him in S tier, because other support units are just like, he doesn't work. Like, he's not effective. That's the good word for it. That's a great word for it. He's not effective in every single situation compared to other characters. So, Bomb's still amazing support character, but I put him in S tier. Now, next character is going to be Joaquin. Now for Joaquin, you guys already know that Joaquin, this guy fell off just a little bit because his performance compared to when he was released, two completely different things. He was literally an overpowered warrior DPS unit when he first dropped in the game, but now it's like, his survivability is falling off just a little bit. In order for you to keep him alive, you literally have to put a Sela set on him to increase his magic and physical resistance so that he can stay alive and actually, do something. But if you don't have, the Sela set on him, he would, die immediately, which sucks. So I will say for Joaquin, for now I'm putting him in S tier because he's still, working great for me. Like, he's still doing amazing things in my account, still doing pretty good damage, but I will say his survivability is falling off just a little bit. So Joaquin is in that S tier. Now, next character we have here is Daddy Uric Mazino. So Daddy Uric Mazino, this guy, I will say, Probably one of the worst SSR plus units in the game, but he is actually pretty good for PvP. Now, this is not a PvP tier list, but the reason why I put him in B tier is because he does have some use, but compared to other SSR plus characters, he's just not on their level. So I'm going to cut him some slack. I'm going to put him in B tier. At least he does a little bit something, decreases physical resistance, which is honestly pretty decent. So I'm going to put him in B tier. Still not an amazing unit for adventure mode, but for PvP, he's actually pretty solid. So, Daddy Uric Mazino, putting him in that B tier. Now, next character we have is... Okay, who else should we talk about right here? We have Jabisu, we have Arc Raptor. I feel like another character I should talk about is Escanor. Yes, Escanor. So, you guys already know Escanor was pretty much like the most busted tank unit in the game. But over time, his survivability is just not on the same level as when he first got released into the game. Now it's like he would take some pretty serious damage. So I will say for Escanor, still an amazing tank unit because he activates provocation and he can deal some pretty decent damage, but his survivability does fall short just a little bit. So therefore I just put him in that S tier for now. And we have Flight Uric Mazino. I will say for Flight Uric Mazino, this guy, he falls off a lot, and the reason why is because he doesn't bring a lot to the table. He doesn't bring too much to the table, and like I said, compared to other SSR plus characters, Flight Uric Mazino just doesn't bring a lot. So therefore, putting him in B tier makes sense. And it's kind of funny how both Daddy Uric and Flight Uric, they're both in the same tier. That's kind of funny to me. Now, another character would also be Nare. Now, just to let you guys know, this is like an overall tier list. So this tier list pretty much includes units who are in Revolution Phase 1 and Revolution Phase 2. So for Nare, for Revolution, like without Revolution investment, Nare is pretty much like a B tier unit. She doesn't really do a lot. But when you do unlock a Nare's Revolution Phase 2, when you get her tier 4 and 5, she is an S tier unit. Very, very good against bosses in adventure mode as well. So therefore, I put her in A tier, right in the middle, because that's pretty much her rank overall. Without a Revolution investment, B tier. With Revolution investment, S tier. So therefore, overall, she's A tier. And I feel like this is a really effective approach because when you look at Halyura is literally great without her Revolution tier 4 and 5, and she's great with her tier 4 and 5. So that makes her an S plus tier unit because she is great no matter what. Meanwhile, units who rely on the Revolution investment, I put them in that A tier, B tier, or let's say S tier. Now, next character I want to talk about is Kunran. Now, Kunran, I've been using him in Underground Laboratory. This guy is actually pretty strong against bosses in Underground Laboratory, and he's pretty solid. But the reason why I put him in C tier is because, there's just better blue element units than Kunran. You got Garam. Garam can pretty much play as a DPS character once you have a lot of copies on her. Like, once you reach max Rainbow Stars, she essentially becomes a DPS unit. Data Mashini as well. When you max her out, she becomes a DPS character. Her phase 2 is insane. Kaiser, insane DPS character. There's like so many options for blue elements, so therefore Kunran, he just doesn't fit. He doesn't have a spot for blue element when it comes to adventure mode, but I will say he is actually pretty strong against bosses. So I am putting him in that C tier, but for bosses, I'm going to give him credit. Even though Kaiser is like the best boss unit, Kunran still pretty solid against some bosses in Underground Laboratory. I think it's Daddy Uric Mazino. I think that's the boss he's pretty good against. Daddy Uric Mazino. He's actually pretty solid. So Kunran definitely in that C tier. And then another character I want to talk about is Quaitro. So a lot of people have been gassing up Quaitro, saying that Quaitro is actually pretty good. But the thing is, I'm still putting Quaitro in C tier because Quaitro is pretty much dog shit without her Revolution investment. Like, she pretty much sucks without tier 4 and 5. So putting her in C tier pretty much makes sense. For sure, if you invest in her tier 4 and 5, she can be in B tier or even A tier. But putting her in that C tier is due to the fact that she is pretty much terrible without Revolution tier 4 and 5. But I will say, once you invest in her tier 4 and 5, she's probably like B tier or A tier. She can actually deal some pretty solid damage overall. But for new players who are just not, getting into the game, building a unit that relies on their revolution, tier 4 and 5, you wouldn't want to build a unit like that, especially since you have units like Kaiser, better blue element characters to focus on. So Quattro, I'll say Quattro is mostly for players who, know have a lot of, revolution fragments, have a lot of resources to pretty much, spend all of their revolution fragments on a Quattro, or for players who pretty much have, most meta characters maxed out when it comes to revolution investment. So Quattro is like, I'll say he's I'll say this unit is mostly exclusive to players who've been playing the game for a long time, and they're just pretty much trying to find different options for multiple teams. And another unit as well is Gusting. Now, Gusting, this guy, I will be honest, not a lot of people talk about Gusting. Me personally, I don't really use Gusting anymore in my purple team, but the reason why he's S tier for me is because he is still the best healer for purple element, and that's very valuable. So the fact that he's able to cleanse, he's able to buff, heal, summon robots, he can actually deal some pretty good damage once you max him out. Like, I've seen some insane stats coming from Gusting. So Gusting still belongs in that S tier for sure, but I will say that not a lot of people talk about this SSR plus unit, which is kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. So Gusting S tier, I don't use him, so I don't really know, how good he is now, but I have seen some stats from, multiple players, and he's actually performing well when it comes to healing and also dealing some pretty solid damage. So I feel like those are like all of the crucial characters I wanted to talk about in this updated tier list. Now, when we take a look at Lilial, now for Lilial, you guys already know for this character, she's dog shit. Like, I'm sorry, this unit is just absolutely terrible. There's just no use for Lilial. There's no use for her, and I don't really see, like, I just can't see her potential. Like, I just can't see her value affecting the game long term. Like, she just has no value. Her bleed damage is just absolutely terrible. Yes, she can stun, which is pretty good, but at the same time, it's like ignoring 90% of her kit and focusing on stun, that pretty much proves that she's just not a good unit if you have to ignore her entire kit and focus on one small thing, which is a stun. So me personally, I'm putting Lilial in that C tier. I feel like this character, she's just not doing anything. Like, when I was progressing through adventure mode 56 to floor 57, I didn't use her at all. I did not use her. I tried to, but she will either, die in like 10 or 15 seconds and deal like, microscopic damage. And I don't know, man. This character, she is just C tier for me. She just doesn't do much, doesn't bring a lot to the table. I did say that if they bring a dot enabling unit in the game, like a damage over time enabling character in the future, maybe she will have potential. But that's just copium. I don't even think they're going to bring damage over time later on in the future. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I have no idea. But risking, wasting all of your summons on a character just to hope that, there's going to be a support unit that can enable her damage, I wouldn't take that risk. So this unit, unfortunately, is C tier. A lot of people, including me, were looking forward to this unit, but unfortunately, she is just absolutely terrible and just doesn't bring much to the table. So Lilial for me is C tier. So when it comes to the SR and R characters, I'm not going to put them in. Only SSR and SSR plus characters. For the terrible tier, I feel like the terrible tier is pretty valid. Hats, still terrible, which is, it's just so crazy to me how Hats was literally a godly unit when the game first started, and now he's fucking ass, bro. Like, this character is so terrible, which is very unfortunate. Missing, even though she has that bug, still C tier. I feel like for Missing, it's just a one shot and that's it. And there are some cases where she can't even, one shot in adventure mode. So I feel like for Missing, she is C tier. Ghost, this guy is a tank monster. Kurdon, a lot of people said that this guy is pretty much, some people said he's a more, I forgot, but a lot of people said that Kurdon is actually pretty solid. Child and Dorsey, I've seen a lot of amazing things about this unit. in higher deficits. Like, she is pretty insane. Like, the stats I've seen, she's crazy. The fact that she's able to revive herself, when your allies kill an enemy with the snake charm effect, really, really good. She is pretty much immortal if you have the ability to kill off enemies immediately. So Child and Dorsey, very, very good. Red Masqua, to be honest, I haven't used Red Masqua a lot, but she is still an amazing CC unit. Like, her crowd control effects are just so good. The fact that she can constantly stun enemies, very, very good. So Red Masqua is still in that S tier. Kaseya, me personally, Kaseya is like one of my favorite assassin units. So therefore, that's why I put her in S tier. Some people might say that, Kaseya belongs in A tier, which is valid. But me personally, I just like this unit a lot. So I just put her in S tier because, she's still doing wonders for me. Whenever I'm going up against Kunadan or Punisher in, she will just immediately erase them. And I will say her Revolution Phase 2 really solid. The fact that she's able to decrease defense, increase her crit damage by a lot. Very solid assassin unit overall. So Kaseya, putting her in that S tier, because I just feel like, she's just dope. She's badass. Like this character a lot. Lero. Now for Lero, some people say that Lero is S plus tier and Lero is S tier. Now the reason why I put him in S tier is because Lero is actually really, really good with his Revolution Phase 2. But the thing is, for Lero's Revolution Phase 2, yes, he provides defense, he provides additional magic pierce, which is very, very solid. But, putting him on the same level as Hayura, Garam, I don't think he's on the same level as them. So putting him in S tier is pretty solid. But I will say with his Revolution Phase 2, I feel like he definitely belongs in that S plus tier for sure, because his potential for future tank units with the defense increase and the magic pierce increase for DPS characters is very, very good. And he also increases basic attack, creates a shield that blocks projectile attacks. His kit is just stat. Like, he has so many things in his kit, makes him an amazing support unit. So is that it? I think that's it. Actually, one more, Jinsung. Now for Jinsung, Jinsung is S tier, and reason why is because Jinsung, his damage is pretty good, but the thing is, when it comes to Jinsung staying on the battlefield and doing dealing continuous damage, like constantly using his special move, he can't eliminate the enemies quickly. Like, when it comes to tanky enemies, let's say Flight Eric Masno, for example, let's say enemies who are constantly activating shields, it's really hard for Jinsung to eliminate those enemies. So I will say for Jinsung, he is still an amazing assassin unit, but it's very it's very difficult for him to eliminate enemies who are constantly stacking shields over and over again. So Jinsung is S tier, still an amazing assassin unit. And Evan Kell, her potential just increased because of Anak. Anak is just fucking broken. Anak and Garam, these two units are just so stupid. So these two support characters, they just enable so many team comps in the game. It's just crazy. Like, as long as you have Garam and Anak in your team, you can put any DPS character with them. You can put Yi-Ring, Punisher in, Kunadan. You can put Evan Kell. I mean, Data Mashni with Revolution Phase 2 maxed out. She is kind of a DPS unit because whenever she uses her ultimate, she pretty much replenishes her HP, which is crazy. So I will say for Data Mashni, she's just insane. Like, just pairing any single DPS character with these two characters, you beat the game, man. You beat the game. So overall, this is the tier list. If you guys have any thoughts, any opinions, share them in the comment section down below. And let me say this one more time. This tier list is based off of my opinion. So don't get mad. Don't get triggered. Don't get emotional. This is just based off of my opinion. And that's that. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. I really appreciate it. And I'll be catching you guys on the next one. Peace.